Welcome to ActiveLab, the official podcast of Active San Gabriel Valley. ActiveSGV is a place-based community organization headquartered in El Monte. And we're really excited to be joined today by my colleague, Danielle Zamora. Danielle is a program director at ActiveSGV2, and she currently leads our Open Streets program, which is arguably, I think, our most popular program. No offense to all our other great colleagues. But we're going to take a little bit deeper dive into Open Streets since we both have the opportunity to work together on the events, and we've been doing them now. It's been almost a decade. So ActiveSGV's first Ciclovia was in 2017. That was the big 8-community one, celebrating the Gold Line extension, or now the A-Line extension to Azusa. And in the past 7 years, we've hosted 5 more events. We've done 2 Mission to Missions, 1 SGV Streets and Treats, and Heart of the Foothills and Arroyo Fest. So actually that's 6 more. But yeah, to jump us off, I guess, Danielle, how did you become an Open Streets organizer?
Okay, so I started off as a volunteer, I want to say about 8 years ago, and I actually volunteered for the first 626 Golden Streets event, and was really interested in learning how to bike on the street or be more confident riding on the street so that I could, bike for transportation and rely on the car less, and was really interested in what Bike SGV at the time was doing. And yeah, I think after I got hired, I don't know if it was because I was also interested in music, but you all kind of pulled me in to help with the hub planning, and then little by little I just learned more and more, mostly from Wes. Yeah, and then just kept going with it and been working mostly on Open Streets ever since.
Yeah, I think that's something we need to highlight too. So Danielle is an accomplished musician, and her band you've performed at least at one of the events, right?
We performed at the first one.
At the first one.
Yeah, back when I wasn't really working, so I had the time to spend 30 minutes, 45 minutes on the stage instead of working at the event.
Yeah, that's the #1 advantage of not being an Open Streets organizer, is you get to actually enjoy the Open Streets events. Mm-hmm. I know the program has changed quite a bit, so you've been working in different capacities over the past 7+ years. Mm-hmm. On the 626 Golden Streets series, and we've done events all over the San Gabriel Valley, but there was a recent rebrand. Mm-hmm. And yeah, can you share a little bit about how that took place? I assume some people might not even be fully aware of it.
Right, so we were originally called 626 Golden Streets, and that was to celebrate the opening of the Gold Line extension from Arcadia to Azusa. But in the past 7 years since that event happened, a lot of changes taken place. The Gold Line is now named the A-Line. We've also hosted events that were not in the 626. And actually on top of that, I think the first event was supposed to be on June 26th, which was also why it was called 626, and then that got rescheduled. But yeah, for all of those reasons, we rebranded to Active Streets, and that just kind of highlights the whole nature of the program, which is to be more active physically, but also more active within our communities.
Yeah, so hopefully people like that. If they don't, it's too late. We already rebranded. So we're going to try to stick with this one for a while. But I guess to follow up, I know one of the things we hear a lot from people, so ActiveSGV only does the events maybe once or twice a year. And after every event, we often hear from community members, why can't we do this annually or every month, or even weekly, like it is in many parts of the world, where it's not a special event, it's more similar to a farmer's market. Ciclovias happen on every Sunday and even on holidays. What's been the challenge of making it more regular here in the San Gabriel Valley, or just period here in California?
I think it's the amount of coordination that goes into planning the event. We're working with multiple jurisdictions. You have to make sure the traffic control plan is solid. You have to go door to door to notify everybody that the event is happening. Yeah, I don't know. What is your perspective on that, Wes?
Yeah, I think that's definitely part of it. I'm not sure how costly it is for organizers to host the events in other parts of the world. I know liability concerns are probably higher here than in other places, and just kind of the level of risk maybe we're willing to take. I've only been to the Ciclovia in Mexico City, and the amount of traffic control or the barricades that we put up for events is much more involved than what I saw there. So I think that probably plays a role as well. But I think the other part is just the amount of local government official public support for the programs. There's nothing stopping LA County or a public agency from investing more funds into this type of event or program, especially for like entire Los Angeles County, which is what we're 10 million people, bigger than a lot of countries. We only spend about $4 million every 2 years, so about $2 million a year for the Open Streets program, versus other transportation projects and investments can be hundreds of millions of dollars. So it's not a lot, and it hasn't changed much either, I think, since the program started in 2014. So I think that would be a barrier, but otherwise, I don't think there's anything stopping it from, like these events from happening at least monthly. So something to hope for, and certainly something if you're listening to the podcast and really interested in seeing more open streets, to talk to your local elected officials about. You mentioned there's a lot that goes into planning them as well. What, as a participant, what are things you feel like take the most time that you wouldn't notice unless you were an organizer?
That's a good question. I want to say notifications. I feel like our team is out on the street for hours letting people know about the event, like especially people who live on the route, letting them know they won't be able to leave their driveways. That's a big one.
And depending on the route, the permitting can take a really long time.
Permitting, yeah, that's a big one.
I think especially for Arroyo Fest, doing the Arroyo Parkway, that took almost a year. It took years to get through the permitting process. So that's a big challenge. I guess that's probably not our favorite part of organizing the events. What is your personal favorite thing?
My favorite thing is the hub planning. I like planning all of the logistics and weighing all of the different needs of like placing things and thinking about what our staff's going to be doing, thinking about how people are going to be using the street, how we have to think about public safety, things like having a fire lane. Like there's so many priorities to weigh when planning a hub that is like a fun puzzle for my brain to figure out, and then figuring out where everyone's going to be and how we're going to flow on event day. I think that's my favorite part. And then of course with the hub planning comes all of the arts planning, which is really fun, getting to hire local musicians and artists to come out. And some of them are there to showcase their art, and others are there to create activities for families to actually do. So making sure that we have activities for folks of all ages to enjoy is a lot of fun, and just making sure that they're vibrant and active hubs on event day.
Would you say that's something that sets apart ActiveSGV-led Open Streets events versus other ones you've been to? Kind of the approach to hubs? Absolutely.
Yeah, I think we have a lot going on in our hubs, like I mentioned. Different types of activities, arts, fun, games. We'll rent inflatables, obstacle courses. We'll rent out carnival games on top of all the arts programming. So there's a lot of different things to do, a lot of different things to see. And then we always invite local nonprofits and community-based organizations, volunteer groups to come out and have a booth so that they can share their resources with the community and just have a variety. Also, they'll bring their own activities to each booth too. So there is a lot to do at each of the hubs. So you could spend a lot of time just at one hub, and then of course there's still more hubs to go to. So yeah, there's a lot of things to do.
Yeah, I think we shared this at a recent meeting, but I know different staff have had community members reach out and ask, oh, are you going to have this specific activity again at the hub? My child was asking, from our last mission to mission, will well, you have a big inflatable obstacle course or other types of games. So I think there certainly are things like that that really resonate with people, or they find, really appealing, especially children and other participants. So you don't have to be a cyclist to enjoy the event per se.
Exactly.
So ActiveSGV's hosted about, 7 events to date, more or less. This will be the next one will be Mission to Mission, so the third time. Are there specific things with this event that will be different than prior ones, or what can the public expect?
I think it'll be similar to the last Mission to Mission. But yeah, definitely all the things that I kind of already mentioned. But you can expect 5 miles of car-free streets from San Gabriel to South Pasadena, Alhambra in the middle, each of their business districts participating. Yeah, I don't know if you have more to add to that.
Yeah, I think this is probably the most popular route we've done, Mission to Mission, linking South Pass, San Gabriel, and Alhambra together. It's certainly the one we've done most often. I feel like a lot of change wasn't per se needed because, the first ones went so smoothly. I mean, do you, particularly with this route or some of the other events, do you feel that they've had a longer term impact on the communities, like changed them in other ways other than hosting a really fun special event?
Yeah, I think there's a desire to make the streets more friendly to people who are using alternative modes of transportation who aren't just driving. So walking, biking, using scooters, and being able to be more multimodal.
Yeah, I think specifically with Alhambra, since the other 2 cities, San Gabriel and South Pass, already had local active transportation plans and have had it for about a decade, Alhambra was the one that had never, or just a month ago adopted, or just in, March 2024, adopted their first active transportation plan. And my recollection in 2019 when we did the first one was there, particularly amongst the local elected officials and city staff, they weren't sure how much public interest or participation there would be for the event, and I think the level of positive feedback surprised a lot of them and helped the community look further into making longer term improvements, like you mentioned. So Mission to Mission is next. What's looking forward to later this year and next year, or even beyond? What are some of the other Open Streets events that the community can anticipate from the Open Streets team here?
In 2025, we have 2 events scheduled. So we'll be doing Mission to Mission again in 2025. In the summer, hopefully a twilight event. So that'll be exciting to do it a little later time frame. And then we also have El Monte, South El Monte, Corazon del Valle for November of 2025. So that'll be another exciting event. We did Open Streets with them, a Halloween themed one a few years ago, and now we're doing more of a Dia de los Muertos themed one. So it'll be taking place at the same time as some of the other activities within those cities that happen. And then we're also looking forward to the Olympics coming to LA, and we're planning some Open Streets events to get folks to some of the games so that they can get their car free. So I'm looking forward to that in the coming years.
Yeah, that should be exciting. So if you hadn't heard, the 2028 Olympics is supposed to be a car-free Olympics. So all the venues are supposed to be very easily accessible via public transit, which I think for most of us, we realize that's not the case right now. So I'm very interested to see what that's going to look like. I heard even venues like the Rose Bowl, you will not be able to drive your car to the Rose Bowl and park on the site. You'll have to utilize either like a remote shuttle service similar to the Hollywood Bowl, or taking the metro and then walking to the stadium, or biking to the stadium, or maybe there'll be an Open Streets event linking the metro rail station, the nearest one at Memorial Park, to the venue. so that should be really interesting. I'm curious to see how that, I think right now this is all very preliminary planning. But one of the other venues in the San Gabriel Valley, the only, I think, other confirmed Olympic venue right now is Benelli Park, where the Olympic mountain biking will take place, which seems to be a very logical fit for open streets, and is relatively close to that regional park is pretty close to soon to open metro rail stations in Laverne and San Dimas. So that's another one, and I believe there'll be some more venues posted. So that's something kind of to keep an eye on, and I know we have a couple years, but it should come up sooner than I think we realize. We talked a little bit about the next event. Are there specific communities you'd love to see an Open Streets event in? I know one of the questions we receive from the public is, how do I get a ciclovia in my town?
Yeah, I know I'd love to see one in Covina. We've talked about trying to do one with them. So hopefully that can take place at some point.
We even applied.
Yeah,
we did apply. Around and they didn't get funded,
unfortunately not, yeah. Yeah, I think more events that connect to open space would be cool. We talked about Azusa also, like trying to connect with Highway 39. Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunities. Monterey Park's another great city. That would be cool.
Yeah, so if folks have ideas, I know we're always happy to field them too. So if you have a concept for a great route, but it can start with just some motivated local residents or stakeholders. I think that's how we did our first event. We connected with some folks who were really excited by the concept, had seen it in Los Angeles, and wanted to bring open streets to their hometown. All right, well, I think we're almost at time. When we have all staff on the program, we like to chat a little bit about what's new in the office, or the office talk update. Is there something specific in the office you feel might be of interest to our listeners?
Office talk? Yeah, at one of our most recent team meetings, we like to have an icebreaker, and we talked about sleep habits, so how to improve your sleep quality, and that's something that I've actually been working on this year. It's one of my intentions for the year, is to improve on my sleep habits. Things like keeping the phone out of the bedroom, and making sure that it's actually dark in your bedroom, making sure your room isn't too hot. And I think that last one's actually really important because of the changing climate. Like once summer comes, it's going to be really hard to stay cool at night. And so kind of to tie it back to sustainability, why we should care about climate change is it's going to affect your sleep, among a lot of other things. So, yeah.
Yeah, there were quite a few interesting tips shared amongst the group. Everything from taping your mouth shut, which was a fun one that I'd never heard before, and I still haven't tried that, to, if you have any printers or anything with those lights that are always on in your room, to covering those up, to not using your phone or electronic devices an hour before bed, like keeping a consistent routine, that sort of thing. But yeah, maybe it's also just our staff getting older and finding that it's no longer so easy to just pass out and sleep through the night.
Well, it's also important when you're planning open streets, like the months leading up, the last month, you probably start losing sleep. So started working on my sleep habits before we started planning this event. So far it's been good. It's been helpful.
It's been helpful.
It's made a change. Yeah.
That's important. Yeah, I know for Arroyo Fest, I definitely tried to focus more on some of my sleep habits because, it can definitely be stressful as an open streets organizer. When we know so many people are going to come out to the event and are really excited for it, that we want to make sure it's as good of an experience for the community as possible. Yeah. Well, thanks again for joining us. If you'd like to stay up to speed with ActiveSGV, please follow us at ActiveSGV on social. We also have a newsletter you can subscribe to, send that out monthly. And if you just go to the website, ActiveSGV.org, you can sign up for the newsletter. And if you'd like to support our Open Streets program or ActiveSGV and our other efforts, including this podcast, you can do so by becoming a member. We have some great merch, including Open Streets, apparel, and more that you can purchase or you can receive in exchange for your membership. And we definitely value those who are able to support us financially, as well as a volunteer, or product donations too. So thanks again for joining us, Danielle, and good luck with all the Open Streets planning.
Good luck to you too. Wes is also a very big part of planning these events. I can't take all the credit. So yeah, thank you.